You are listening to the Mountainside Podcast, and joining us in studio for this episode is pro rodeo legend Doug Mathis. We're also joined by renowned pro rodeo photographer. You know him, you love him. He's been on the podcast multiple times, Michael Pintar. It was a great conversation. I really enjoyed sitting down with these two guys, and I hope you enjoy the episode.
What do they say? I've got a face for radio.
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be good just to get in.
Yeah, I told them this year since they put me on TV at the Cowboy Channel this year at Fort Worth. I told them, well, you just dumped that myth down in the train. I got a face for radio. You're putting me right on TV. So,
Jeez, maybe I should have just kept the podcast just audio. Yeah. We're on, by the way. So
that's great. That's fine. I figured you never know when you chime in, you know.
Yeah.
So, or when we're going, right? So
no.
Anyway.
Doug, thanks for joining us.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thank
all the way in from Stevensville, Texas?
Stephenville, Texas.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about...
that's a rodeo town, right?
Yes, it is. They call it the cowboy capital of the world now. You know, that cowboy capital of the world title, it's been passed around to a few things. It used to be Oakdale, California. And
California?
Yeah, Oakdale, California. Back in the
New
50s.
New York City.
Yeah, back in the 50s, and 60s, 70s. You know, Oakdale, California was a big rodeo town.
Okay.
And if you ever watched Junior Bonner, the movie with Steve McQueen.
Okay.
It was all done out around California rodeos. Great American Cowboy, a documentary with Phil Lyon and Larry Mahan when they were going head to head with the All Around.
Oh, nice.
One year it was all done, a lot of California rodeos. California had a big push in rodeos. You know?
Doug, I think the new sign for Oakdale, or not new, but it's called the retired cowboy capital of the world now.
It might very well be.
Yeah. And then you got Tarleton State.
Do a lot of cowboys retire there for some reason, or is it just?
I just remember seeing that sign.
It's just done.
I used to call on a vet practice there, Pioneer Equine, and I just remember seeing that sign on there, and you know it's a good cow town and western town and rodeo town.
Man, Northern California's got some incredible country and just some incredible people.
Yeah,
and like you wouldn't guess it with as liberal as that state is.
I used to go up and I'd spend about 2 months in California working for Jeff Davis, 4-star rodeo company out of Cottonwood, California, and it was up and we'd do Gridley and MacArthur and all those up in Northern California. Penn Valley, and it was, you know, you get up there and it's totally different than when you get down by LA and all that. It's totally different people, totally different lifestyle. And then we did rodeos up over into Oregon, Lakeview, Oregon. But it's a cool place. It's the only place I've ever seen that you can go skiing or be on the beach in the mornings, go skiing in the afternoon, or vice versa. I mean, it's that close.
Yeah, it's an awesome state when it comes to that scenery and those, you know.
Go up around Tahoe. The
Sierra Nevada mountains are like some of my favorite. If you've ever spent any time around like Mammoth or any of those like ski resort towns, man, they are incredible.
Right. And I actually pulled into I forget where I was at, but I pulled into a fuel station to get gas or diesel. And it was a gas station. It wasn't a truck stop. And when I went to pay, I walked through the door and I turned around and walked out and I looked up. I was inside of a tree. It was where the big redwoods.
Really?
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, it was the tree. They had turned it into
a gas station.
Gas station. It was bigger than this room.
Matty, see if you can look this up, see if that thing's still around. Dude, I'd like to stop there.
It was a gas station, but you walked in and paid and everything.
Huh.
But those trees, they are huge. Absolutely huge. They're beautiful.
Yeah, it's breathtaking, man. Like you can't, I mean, the photos are magnificent, especially when there's a guy like trimming them or whatever, right? Like, or protesting. Is that the spot?
It may be. It looks like, but I mean, look, it's a tree.
Oh, yeah.
Son of a gun.
That's crazy.
Geez, you got somebody faster than anybody I've ever seen on a keyboard.
Yeah, man. That's Matty Ghost over there. He's like a ghost. Yeah. He knows what you're thinking before you're thinking it.
That's it. That looks almost exactly like it.
That's awesome. I don't think I've ever stopped there. It's got to be outside of like Redwood National Forest or something, right?
Yeah, that ain't no Southern California.
No.
But it's a cool place if you ever get a chance to go up around there.
Man, I've spent some time in the Redwood National Forest, Yosemite, I used to do a motocross event up there, so I would spend like 3 weeks just living up there at Mammoth and just cruising around. And we would only work till like 2:00 in the afternoon. It doesn't get dark till 9. So I was just fly fishing everywhere. And God, I really got to experience that.
Yeah.
But you can't fit those redwoods like in a photo.
No, they're
until you're standing there looking up at like 400 feet, you feel like you're in New York City, but it's a forest, of just skyscraping trees.
Yeah. If you want to put it in a picture, you got to lay down on your back on the base of it or something.
Yeah. And a super wide angle lens, which makes it look even bigger,
Yeah. They're huge. They're huge.
So you've traveled, I mean, both of you guys travel the country all summer long, even into the winter, right?
Yeah. It's my deal. I start out at Fort Worth, Texas, which Stephenville is probably 75 miles west of Fort Worth. But it's kind of like my hometown rodeo. I grew up there watching the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo when I was a kid. But I start out there, and for the last 12 years I've been the announcer along with Bob Tallman. And then this year they moved me to the Cowboy Channel, and I was the TV host for Fort Worth. But we start out there, and then after 22, 23 days of solid rodeo, 1 and 2 days perfs a day, you kind of had enough rodeo for a while. So I take off a little bit, spend time with family there in Stephenville, and get some things done around the place. And then we go to Cave Creek, Arizona. And then from Cave Creek, Arizona, we come home, spend a little more time. Then we go to Western Heritage, which is a huge ranch rodeo in West Texas. It's kind of the kickoff for the summer of West Texas. And it's a Western Heritage Classic in Abilene, Texas. And from there we go. Last week we were in Amarillo, Texas for a big ranch rodeo there, Coors Cowboy Club Ranch Rodeo. That deal, I mean, you guys are close enough to that. I mean, you could buzz down there in 6-7 hours. If you get a chance to go to Amarillo the first full week in June, go. It's kind of a bucket list ranch rodeo. It's a great deal. But then I come here the next week. And then after this, I go to Thermopolis, Wyoming next week, Red Lodge, Montana the next week, Casper, Wyoming the next, Cheyenne, Wales, Colorado the next, Burlington, Colorado the next, and it just keeps going. And it goes all the way through September. And in the end of September, I end up back at home doing my hometown rodeo, the Cowboy Capital of the World, Stephenville, Texas rodeo. And then it just keeps going after that. So I've got about 3 months. And that's it. That I'm
on the road.
No.
Oh, okay. Off. Yeah. No.
In those 3 months, they don't come all at once. They come 2 and 3 weeks here at a time. But it's a great life. I've been doing it. This is 32 years now.
Wow.
That I'm starting.
That's incredible.
25 years I've been here at Evergreen.
That's why. So I got to ask, out of all the big rodeos that you do, this is kind of a small mom and pop. I mean, it's a pro rodeo.
Yeah.
But in the circuit, it's not the biggest rodeo, right? So
this is what we call a grassroots rodeo. Grassroots meaning you've got your Fort Worth, you've got your Reno, you've got Houston, Rodeo Houston, Pendleton. You got all those big rodeos you always hear about. But when you put those over here and you look at your grassroots rodeos over here, grassroots rodeos are what fuel this thing, because there are a lot more grassroots rodeos than there is big rodeos. That if we lost the grassroots rodeos, if you just took them away, you wouldn't have a lot of those big ones. I mean, it wouldn't make up enough, to do the association.
And it's crazy, like the athletes really don't change all that much, because you get some big name athletes going to the grassroots rodeos too, right? Sure. Because it's all based on points, and you guys can explain that better than I can. But
I rode bulls for 13 years, and then back when Donnie Gay was finishing up, and back in the 70s and 80s, back then, I was talking to Donnie one time, and he said, when we were rodeoing, or him specifically, because he was the one going to the NFR and winning world championships. But he said, when I was rodeoing, he said, you had to go to every rodeo you physically and mentally possibly could.
To even have a chance at a world championship,
he said if you
right?
didn't, there's some little young hotshot that's going to go to more than you did, and he's going to win more, and he's going to beat you out of the NFR. Now they've come up, and they've changed it a couple of times, and I'm sure if somebody hears this, they'll call me on it. I don't know. But it's like a 70 rodeo rule, and it's different, I think, for timed eventers than it is rough stock guys. But you have that many rodeos that go towards the NFR. So they start picking and choosing. They start going, okay, we're going to go to Rodeo Houston. We're going to go to Fort Worth. We're going to go all the big building rodeos down in what we call the Texas Swing. You know, San Angelo, Houston, Fort Worth, Odessa, Midland, you know, all those you hear about in the winter. They're going to go to all of those. And then they're going to go to the Pendletons, the Renos, and they're going to fill them up with that. And then they'll start dropping, and what it is basically the money. They go to the bigger money rodeos first, and then they drop down. So you'll see some of them here, especially like Stetson Wright. Mm-hmm. Stetson Wright was hurt, and he's going to show up when Reno starts here this week.
Yeah.
And that's his first time back. Well, by now, he's already hundreds of thousands of dollars ahead of everybody in the all-around.
Right.
He hadn't got very much won, and so he's going to start hitting them hard. You're going to see him at a lot, and he's going to start going to as many as he possibly can. He'll start rodeo in the old-fashioned way, like Donnie was talking about, just to get back to where he can get to the NFR this year, hopefully.
And just because I'm ignorant to it, it's not really a points system, right? It's based on winnings,
it's
right?
Money won. It's money won.
Okay.
Plus, you have to think
So
about
is that the
fact
certified check that they're handing to the guy for the winnings of the rodeo? So that's not his entire income, right? Because, like, I don't know, back when I was kind of tracking it a while ago, and I haven't tracked it in some time, like the top guys in the world were only winning like $100,000 a year for climbing on bulls.
No, Stetson Wright. Last year,
this was like the 90s, right?
Yeah. It's gone up considerably, and Las Vegas has a lot to do with that because they have added chunks and chunks of money for the NFR. But
they're taking it right back at the roulette tables.
I know a few that have actually,
myself included.
The bad part about it is you can go cash your go-around check that you win. You can do anything. You can do it at South Point, and you can put it.
It's the only ATMs in the world where you can walk up, put your debit card in, and pull out more money that's in your account, and there's no limit. I think you can pull $10,000 out of your bank account in one shot.
The reason I quit gambling, because I've worked at the NFR since 1999 every year, and I used to go out there and I thought, I can do this. Quickly found out I'm not a gambler.
Yeah.
The only machine that I was ever to get money out of was an ATM.
Yeah.
So that doesn't really compute.
It doesn't have all the bells and whistles and shit when it happens
quit.
Either, huh?
Yeah.
But no, year before last, when we finished up at the NFR, Stetson Wright was just a few $1,000s short of $1 million in 1 year.
That's how it should be.
Yeah, and they're winning a lot of money now.
Yeah, it's a short-lived career, right? I mean, you rode bulls for 13 years. That's kind of an anomaly, honestly. That's a long time.
You've got a guy that Will Lowe he's 42, I think. He's still riding bareback horses.
Yeah, I'll see him next week.
And I mean, he's doing it still. Not at the highest level he was when he was winning world championships, but he's a 4-time world champion. But, I mean, I remember watching this kid when he was at Vernon, Texas, in college, his first year, little guy. But he's still winning Fort Worth, and he's still winning big rodeos. He can still compete with these young guys. And so, some of that stuff like that, that's kind of ironic. I mean, you don't see that a lot.
I think it's one of the toughest sports on earth for body wreckage, man. Like you look at UFC fighters, pro football players. I mean, cowboys are fucking tough, man. Pardon my language, but to get kicked by a 2,000-pound animal or stepped on
and get up and
or
walk
kicked
off.
by a horse, it's unbelievable.
They did a survey one time on bareback riders and put all these monitors and stuff on them. And a bareback rider through 8 seconds, in the buck and shoot 8 seconds, and then, getting off on a pickup man. In that little span, probably altogether 12 seconds, say. They took more direct hits, direct hits, than an NFL player does in a full game. And I
believe it.
You think about that. If you get loose on a bareback horse, if you stump your toe and you let him break you off of that bareback rigging, he'll go to ping pong and you back and forth like a ping pong ball, and it ain't good. And they'll flip you up and down and twist your arm.
And your hand is locked into the rigging,
it's
right?
Binded into that rawhide rigging.
Like they can barely they have to work their hand into it, right?
Yeah.
And then they roll it over, so then there's leather binding against the rigging, right? Like so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it'll rip your arm right out of the socket if it flips you over. And they're tough. They are tough.
That's wild. And even with the bull riding and stuff, those guys are basically tying a knot around their fist and then making a fist, right?
You got to weigh out. You've got that dally when you pull it. But if you get bucked off and you flip your arm over, you need somebody to come help.
Yeah.
Because you're there,
Yeah, there's so many people involved with it too, like I think, the bullfighters.
Yeah.
You have the rodeo clowns, you as the announcers, photographers.
Yeah.
It's a cool sport, man.
Rodeo,
and you guys do a great job of capturing it. And I think one of the biggest things that's intriguing to me about it is I grew up in a ranch family, grew up in a ranch community. Believe it or not, this used to be a ranch community. And you've been coming here for a little while. It's slowly kind of dying out. But I had a lot of family members that rodeoed, some at pro level, some at the amateur level, some in high school. Mm-hmm. I think it's still the only high school sport where you can actually win prize money.
Right,
is high school rodeo.
Yeah, I'm thinking so. I don't know that they've got college football players and stuff that can make money off endorsements now. So
yeah,
I don't know. I don't think.
But to win actual prize money from like a school sanctioned event, that's pretty cool. So I think that intrigued a lot of poor ranch kids,
right,
to get into it, to put some gas in their pickup or whatever. But yeah, I think from an Americana standpoint and an American tradition, I don't think there's any more patriotic sport either. And I think that's what I love about it, because I'm patriotic as heck, man. I support law enforcement, our active military guys, veterans. I think it's so important, man. And I think it's something that's kind of dying out in this country. So rodeo is kind of the only thing that kind of is keeping that Western heritage alive, because everywhere else it's dwindling, right? Like now they're trying to serve you Beyond Meat, right? So you can get away from eating cattle or whatever. And there's all kinds of people. Hollywood's pushing that, right? 90% of the actors are pushing that. Now they want you to eat bugs for protein, and you know what I mean? So
you got to ride a Beyond Bull.
Yeah. I think that there's two industries that are kind of doing that. It's the hunting, which is very, very small, and the rodeo industry, and they're very, very small. And to have that kind of Western culture that I grew up in, all my uncles and family members are all come from that Western culture, and some of the best people, hardest working people in the world. And I'm afraid if we lose that in this country, we're going to be in deep shit, honestly. So
as long as rodeo and Western way of life, Western events are around, you're not going to lose that.
Yeah.
Especially with us,
Yeah.
But it's funny you say that about the meat and everything. We were talking about this just last night. 2 summers ago, I had a lady from PBS call, and she had gotten my name through Fort Worth at the stock show and rodeo, and she called and she was talking to me about the Western way of life and all this, and she wanted to know if I could get away to fly to Fort Worth and do this TV show that they were doing. It's a documentary on Western way of life stuff. I said, I can't. I said, I'm too busy. And so about 6 days later, she calls me back. She goes, all right, I've got to have you on camera talking about this. She said, because we had talked for about 45 minutes on the phone. I got to have you on camera doing this. She goes, what if in the middle of the week I fly you to New York. We pick you up, do this taping, and then fly you back. I said, all right, if you're going to foot the bill, I'm fine, So I took off from Denver, and I flew to New York. They picked me up in a limo. They took me to Lower Manhattan into this flat where we filmed it. We filmed for 4 hours, and I just talked about everything. They asked questions, but I just rolled on about all this stuff. And then they took me to eat, put me up in a hotel, and took me back first flight out. I got to Denver, get in a car, drive to Cheyenne Wells, Colorado, and start rodeo. So, it was a quick deal. But when they got to the meat and why we need farmers, why we need ranchers, I went off on this tear about, all these people nowadays think they can eat tofu and all of this fake meat and everything. Let me tell you why you need ranchers. You're not going to get the protein, da-da-da-da-da-da. And I told her about this film that I saw about a rancher and these tree huggers, I don't know what you want to call them, but that were thinking we do not need to kill cows and this and that and that. And he said, well, let me ask you something. He said, if you don't have ranchers, cattle, farmers, where do you think you're going to get your meat? And this person goes, well, we're going to get it at the supermarket where they make it. And that rancher looked at that deal and he goes, you're getting this on film, right? You're filming it. And I told the whole story and everything. Well, for some reason, my segment didn't get put in the documentary.
Yeah, so, it's funny how that works, right?
They don't want to hear that. They don't want to listen to it. And but as far as going away, it's not going to go away as long as we're around.
Yeah, and I think a misconception with that is like, whether you're eating a plant, that thing breathes too. Mm-hmm. It still is doing the mushrooms. They all have some sort of life force. But then even to a point, if you've ever plowed a field or anything, what dies in there. There's tons of animals, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know, man. I just hope that we're not biting the hand that feeds us, really.
Mm-hmm,
I mean, because that's what it comes down to when you're trying to, and I didn't want to make this a political podcast, so we're going to get off this here in just a minute. Everybody in Evergreen's really going to hate me now. No, but yeah, I just think that there's, we got to pick our heads up out of the sand a little bit and just understand and don't try to force people, let people make their own decisions. I don't care if you want to eat Beyond Meat. I don't mind, but don't tell me what to eat, or that I can't hunt, or that I can't, buy a steak at the supermarket or direct from a rancher.
And that's it. Everybody's entitled to do whatever they want, and that is fine with me. Mm-hmm. And I'll be the first one to tell you, I look for pretty healthy choices, and stuff. But I still eat meat, so don't try to force it on everybody else, but do what you want to do.
Yeah. That's the best part about this country, right? That's the best part about
your freedom.
Yeah.
That's a whole meaning of that. You're free to do whatever, live wherever.
I think it's important to just know. So, look,
we're digging a hole here.
No. I guess the easiest way to do it, the way I would put it is it's kind of like this. You got your CNN and you got your Fox Television, right? And some people are so one-sided, they'll never deviate from that one channel without at least taking a look at the opposite argument. Same goes for understanding what it is to be a vegetarian, or if you're going to take it to that level, be a vegan. Great. Why do they do it? Okay, I kind of get that. So now at least I can say, all right, I'm not going to be that, but at least I know what they're doing. And the same goes for rodeo. And you can imagine this, with some of my photography, I'll get people that chime in there, and I used to take it personally when they would say, animal cruelty, and I used to try to rebuttal and say, hey, look,
they stand outside of it and pick it.
Well, man. I used to go, screw you guys. You don't understand the sport. And I started changing my attitude on it because they don't understand our sport. But I've welcomed them to come anytime they want, to come hang out with us, and you'll see how well these animals are managed and maintained, too.
That's the thing. We've got to educate them. And it's that way on anything. You got to educate them about rodeo.
Yeah.
And they've started, at a lot of rodeos, they'll have a group of people that I'll take back behind the scenes, and they'll show them stuff like that.
Yeah.
But they got to understand, bucking horses that you watch, the studs that they breed them from, they'll sell for $200,000. I mean, you're not going to take a $200,000 horse and mistreat it. You know, it's going to live in the house, and you'll live out in the barn.
Right.
I mean, that's the way they treat them.
They're really viewed as athletes now in the sport, man.
They're
they always
absolutely
kind of
athletes.
have been, right? Like,
They're absolutely athletes. And the bulls, Bob Tallman had a deal called Buckers Incorporated, and he was the first person to actually delve off into breeding bucking stock for that. And he would take a bucking bull.
So taking the best genetics from
Right.
a badass bull.
Right. So because used to in the 70s and stuff like that, you go to a rodeo and a stock contractor would have 1, 2, maybe 3 really ranked bulls, you know, or horses. Because you went to a sale barn and you took some guy that this horse and bull's been jumping fences or they're hard to work. So you buy them, you try them, see if they buck, see if they would, you know, and turned out they would. Now they breed them specifically for what they're made for. I mean, and they've got workout programs.
They got workout programs
Yeah,
for
oh my
animals?
goodness,
I
yeah.
know they have diet, you know, and all
Yeah.
kinds of crazy
Gilbert
stuff.
Carrillo and his brother, which they rode in the PBRs down in Texas, they've got a place that if you've got bucking bulls, you can take it to them. And what they do is they work them in the back pens every day. They go in there and they just move them around.
It's almost like a training
Move them around.
session,
They
huh?
run them
Yeah.
up in the bucking chutes and they get them to set there. They flank them. They get somebody down on them and waller around on them and everything. Then they'll put a dummy on them and they'll turn them out and they'll buck them. Then they'll turn them around after they buck and they'll run them back through the out. They physically run them through a practice to get them. It's just like a football play, you know, just to get them to be the athlete that they are.
Now, with the organization, I mean, I'm sure you have rules and regulations as an announcer. You do as a photographer. I'm sure that there's some rules and regulations on animal
There's so many rules,
care and
animal rights and stuff like that that we go by. I mean, you know, they've got judges that go through the herd every day and they look at everything. And those judges, tie-down roping was one of the biggest things that people, you know, ooh and ah over.
like the calf roping?
Right.
Or- yeah.
Calf rope.
Okay.
So they rope a calf, it hits the ground. If it comes, when he ropes and drops the slack, and that calf comes straight over at 12 o'clock, you're done. No time.
Oh, okay.
You're out of it because you can't jerk a calf over 12 o'clock. He has to come over at like 10 o'clock. I mean, there's a certain way he has to come over. Okay? If that calf hits the ground, you go down there and tie him, and you get up, and that horse backs up about 4 steps, and I don't know what the length is, but that judge is watching. If he backs him up more than that, you're out. They not want any more stress to be given to that calf. That calf is the very first concern of anything. That calf roper can jump off, break his hip, throw his knee out, do whatever. That's fine, as long as that calf's okay. You know,
It's true,
they care
yeah.
more, but it's true, and they should.
That's how it should be, yeah.
Yeah, they should. You know, so for the people to think that we just abuse them, that's completely wrong.
Yeah, I've never met an animal that I didn't like, but I've met a lot of people I don't like.
And this always comes up. So right now on a podcast, I've never been on a podcast before.
This is your first one?
I've never been. I've never even
Great.
been in
You
a
didn't know
room.
we were getting into politics all day.
Yeah, the politic deal come up. And I thought,
Well, guess
no,
what?
no.
We don't edit anything either, so it's start to stop. But if you want me to take anything out, I
No,
will.
we're
Okay.
good.
Cutting out
We're
that
good.
beef thing, though.
Okay. But just dub over Beyond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so just to put to bed the myth, everybody thinks that in the bull riding, they take that flank
here we go.
strap and
Yep.
they wrap his scrotum and nuts in that flank strap to make him buck. That's the farthest thing from. Let me ask you a question.
You have to know animal anatomy, right?
Right.
Like a little
if
bit,
somebody
right?
wrapped a flank strap and tied it around your nut, are you going to want to move at all?
Hell no.
Hell,
Yeah.
you're going to stay right there.
Yeah.
Like, please get up.
I'm going to pray to whatever God is available, man. Like
the whole concept of it is, it's kind of like if you got something on the end of your finger and you're trying to get it off. That's the whole concept of it.
Yeah.
That flank, they feel that and they're trying to kick it off. And that's a lot of it. But the other part of it, like we were talking about, they breed them to buck.
Right.
You know, they are bred now as a rodeo athlete. That's what they're bred to do. So they're going to do that, but that flank strap makes them do it consistently through 8 seconds.
I mean, some of those PBR bowls and stuff, or even the ones that are in the national finals, because they go back and forth, right? Like, Maddie, see if you can pull up some highlights, man. I was watching some stuff like it just happened to come up on your feed or my feed or something.
Yeah.
What exactly?
Just like bucking stock highlights or something.
PBR, but
Yeah.
they are unbelievable, man. Like jumping as high, they're like cats.
right.
Yeah.
They're like
the
cats.
PBR is, they really took, see, when Bob had that Buckers Incorporated, I used to do all of his events, and they'd buck them under dummies when they were, 2-year-olds or whatever. And then he sold the Buckers Incorporated to the PBR, and they made it the ABBI. And when the ABBI got it, they took breeding of bucking stock so far, it's unreal. And they're starting to get these. And it's... I would hate to think that I had to ride a bull. It'd be like sitting on this wall. And I mean, then they jump up and they
How
go
much
sideways.
has the sport evolved? Was one of my questions for you, because you've watched it firsthand, front row, for
Huge.
30 plus years, and then how long have you been? Were you announcing and riding bulls at the same time?
No.
So this has been your life, right? From a young man.
I rode bulls in high school, and then to college, and then on. But it's from when I was in it in the 70s, it's unreal to see how far it's gone. But just like everybody goes, what kind of vest and helmet did you ride? This right here, baby. This is it.
Yeah.
Vest,
now you're required
helmets.
to wear a helmet.
Yeah,
aren't you?
Yeah,
Some
there's some
levels.
grandfathering though too. Like if you look at some of the athletes in the PBR that
like
you'll
JB
see,
didn't. He
could
didn't
wear
have
a hat.
To. He
yeah.
could wear a hat if he wanted to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some
Is that
of the
the guy that got
prefer.
in the hospital and he got out and went back to the end?
That's Kai. That's Kai
Okay.
Hamilton. That's the reigning world
Smoking
champion.
cigarettes along the way.
Well, and by the way, JB and Kai were working together
Yeah,
on that. He got Kai to take actually his helmet off last year, and Kai was doing better. Right?
And he got him to take his helmet off. He was doing better. But anyway, Kai Hamilton was the one that you've seen back in December that was in the hospital. But JB was with him. JB is the one that he broke his neck and then he retired right after that. And he's the one, and he's got a video up, and I wish somebody would have, because they take pictures of JB all the time, and he is a throwback to the 60s and 70s. I mean,
I've seen some stuff of him.
He's thin as
like
a rail. He smokes cigarettes one right after the other, and he don't care. He'll tell you exactly how it is. I mean, he's cool
all
that
man.
he sticks to his guns. But he said, when he broke his neck, he said he got up and to move, or they helped him, and he felt it all move. And he said, I knew I'd broke my neck. And he said, they go, you all right? He said, nah, broke my neck. He said, and I walked out of the arena on my own. And he said, I got out and sat down, and said the sports medicine come over and said, hey, what's going on? You all right? He said, nope, broke my neck. And they started freaking out, and they said, we got to put a collar on you. He goes, yep, that'd probably be a good idea. And he said they put this collar on him, and one of the boys from Wyoming come up and says, anything you need? He goes, nope. He goes, how about a cigarette? He goes, that'd probably be a good idea, because where I'm going, they're not going to let me have one. He said, I got this collar on, and they're trying to put an IV in me. And I'm steady burning down this cigarette. He said, and I'm surprised somebody didn't take a picture of it. But that would have been a perfect JB
That would have been
picture.
cool.
Yeah. If you're not checking out the Mountainside Podcast on YouTube, you absolutely should be. If you like the content that we create here and you want to help support the podcast, please take a moment, subscribe to us on YouTube, and hit that notification bell. I've actually seen an interview of him talking about that. And then I thought one of the coolest things I saw about him, because he's a great follow, man.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, everybody thinks that it's just natural talent or natural stuff that comes to it. And he says, come out to the barn or the garage with me. And he's standing on
stands on a
something
ball.
about the
12-inch
size,
ball.
about a 12-inch therapy ball or something,
Yeah.
and stands there for 2 hours a day balancing, right?
Smoking cigarettes.
Smoking cigarettes. I was just going to say with this cigarette.
The cigarette's kind of like
yeah.
the bar. It balances it.
Yeah.
But no, you work at it. I mean, to get that good, you work at it. It's like anything else.
Yeah.
You know, and he's got Jagger doing the same thing. You know, his son.
Yeah.
And now that'll be you a follower.
Yeah.
Follow that little dude. You
Yeah.
know, you might get more than you want sometimes.
Sure.
But yeah, it's JB.
It's funny how it runs in the blood like that, because I used to be around the Ford boys, you know, and man, they were some tough kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the street,
It's just how you
in the
brought up.
rodeo arena, at
Yeah.
church, wherever,
Yeah,
man, it
it's
didn't
just how
matter.
you brought
yeah.
up, you
Yeah.
know. Just how you
100%.
brought up.
Man, I mean, both of you, Mike, you know, like how many rodeos are you going to this year?
I'm on a weak start,
Yeah.
quite honestly. Normally I would have, and this is probably slow by the standards of some of the other big photographers out there, but I'd probably have about 4 or 5 rodeos before Evergreen. And to be completely transparent, this is, I think, my second this year. So, which is crazy.
Well, you got a
'Cause
lot going on, man.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of all these different things happening, but it's. I wish that I was able to. I shouldn't say wish. I'm going to. You have to decide if you're going to do it, and I keep saying every year I'm going to get after it. I'm going to try to get enough rodeos in so I can throw my name in the hat for the NFR, and it just seems that there's been some setbacks for the last 2 years. I'm not letting it get me down, but I do. As soon as I get back into the mix, it's addicting. So from here I'll go to. I got a couple in Idaho, Wyoming. You know, I'll throw in Cheyenne. I'm doing West Cliff for the first time this year, and a few others. But those are the ones that are kind of locked in between now and September. I'm trying to throw in some of those grassroots ones. I know about. I used to date a girl out in Cheyenne Wells, so I know that I know that area pretty good. Right when I moved to Colorado, yep, and. You know, it's a funny thing. She when I met her, she was in Colorado Springs, and we go out to her folks' place, and they owned I don't know how many sections of land out there. You know, with center pivots out there, and these big old wheat drillers and all that. And we're sitting on the porch swing and talking to her one day, and I'm like, man, someday this is all going to be yours. And she'd say, "Shut up, Mike. I don't want anything to do with this stuff." You know, I'm going back to Colorado Springs, right?
Yeah.
You know? And wouldn't you know it? Guess where she's at now? Back out at that ranch, and she owns all these
Doing it
sections of
all,
land.
yeah.
So it's hard to leave those roots.
Yeah.
And but that's a neat area out there.
It is.
That Burlington and all that stuff.
is.
That's a neat area. So I have not gotten too hot and heavy on the rodeo scene yet this year, and it sounds crazy because we're already halfway through when you think about it, the season.
But man, kind of where I was going with that was you capture rodeo in its finest moments, right? And its worst, right? Like,
Yeah.
whether there's a storm rolling in and you're about ready to go on a weather delay that doesn't happen very often. But the images that you capture, Mike, like if you go to Mike's Instagram, I think it's Pintar Photography
Right there.
or Pintography.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible, man. It brings a whole, whether you're a rodeo fan or not, I urge you to go check this out, because this is truly man versus beast. And not only that, but just capturing the athleticism of the athletes and also, you know, the rough stock, man, and the horses.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's beautiful, man.
That's one of my favorite things. You guys were talking about how the animals are managed. You'll see me commingle a bunch of horses turned out, like out at Cervies out there, you know, 100,000 acres, 900 head of horses. And when it comes to management of their stock and what they do, it's critical for me to show that. And it's also beautiful. It kind of creates a little bit of that romanticism behind what I think
it's
is
so
what rodeo
cool, man.
stands
This
for.
is all stuff you could hang on your wall, honestly, man.
Thank you. You guys, if you page down, we were talking about genetics and bulls and how they're incredible athletes.
Who's that?
Hey, look at that guy.
Why is my ugly mug on here?
Yeah.
You need to hide that one, dude. Like
guys-
that's the ugliest thing on your page.
Yeah, well,
That was a
if
fun
Whitney
night.
likes it,
Yeah,
you're good.
that was a fun night.
But I think it was Vernal, Utah, last year, or one of those years I was shooting it, and you see how high these bulls can get, and obviously that's kind of a hot button after Sisters Rodeo, Sisters Oregon this last week with that bull getting out over there. A lot of people don't. I don't think they respect how high these bulls can get, how they can jump. They can jump anything, anytime. They could jump a fence out in a pasture. They just choose not to.
Is that one?
Yeah, that's one of them right there.
That shows. I mean, that thing is at least 5 feet to the lowest point of it, and to the belly, it's probably 6 feet off the ground, man.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and you should have seen, this is just one of the hops. That bull did that at least 2 or 3 times that way with Canyon on there. And it was just a really cool deal. So people ask me how can they get up high? And they sure do. So
it's unbelievable. So what happened a couple weeks ago? A bull got out of the actual arena?
Yeah, last week at Sisters.
Did it go rogue into the audience and all that? I've seen that a couple times.
Last bull of the last day. And this bull, he ran out, made him a little victory lap or two, and then he just, when he was headed back to the outgate, he just turned and over the fence he went.
Yeah.
And there he is right here.
Is this it?
Watch this.
And the whole
see ya.
Holy,
the
they
whole
jump
crowd,
like an elk.
Well, this is the unfortunate part. A couple people did unfortunately get pretty banged up here, right here, and this poor gal here. I hope she's okay. They didn't. It was a little off camera there, but nevertheless, it was interesting because they're all singing Lee Greenwood's "Proud to Be American," and they got their lights out, and they're doing this.
Oh, and this is when he jumped the fence.
This is the last part of the rodeo, last thing of the whole deal.
They're trying the bull's already bucked, and he's going out the last bull, and they're fixing to say goodnight.
We would have played some audio, but we've been getting struck by YouTube left and right.
Benny Hill would go good under
the big deal about that, and it happens from time to time, and sometimes you can't.
They're still wild animals.
Yeah,
man.
you can't keep from getting hit, or you can't,
Mm-hmm.
But people think when that happens, like that guy, there was one part where he was running, that guy was running beside him, think, like a cow out in a pasture, I'm going to get in front of him, turn him around. Don't. If that happens, get up in a stance.
Yeah.
Don't even mess with them, because the pickup men are coming right behind you with ropes, and they're going to rope them.
Right.
Don't even get around it. Get away from it. I mean, if it was a bear, you wouldn't go herding that bear. So treat him the same way.
Some people do, man. Have you ever seen, or if you want a great Instagram follow, look up Torons of Yellowstone.
That's the buffalo? I laugh. And it's like, man, it's that season again.
What the hell are you asking for, man?
There you go. Let's get 2 foot from him and take a picture of the slobber. No.
Well, we got that problem right here down in Evergreen because we're, the elk are calving right now, and they had to close the path the other day. The park ranger did right here because of the yahoos that get so dang close to them. And
they're playing with their babies right now down at the lake.
Yeah.
But don't get close to them.
I had 2 cows this morning when I was coming in, and I only live a mile from here.
Yeah.
But they were both stood up on their back legs and just boxing the shit out of each other.
Oh, really?
Man. Like, you could have pay-per-viewed that thing. So I stopped for a few minutes and watched it. But they don't mess around when they're in that calving season, man. When they got a baby to protect. Well, any wild animal.
Yeah, like that picture you've got on the wall out there in your lobby there.
Thank you, by the way.
My own little shout out. That picture was taken the very day before, a few years back, when that young lady was tossed by a bison, literally 100 yards from where that picture was taken. I took that the day before. That may as well been the darn bison that threw her. But there's a reason. When you're a photographer like me, we have lenses that can reach out and touch.
That's what I started to say. That's not taken with a phone.
I'm not holding a cell phone up, right? So, and I just waited patiently for this thing to get up off that volcanic sand and silt or that ash, whatever they got on the ground there, and it just looked perfect in the daylight.
Cool, man. It's one of my favorite things. I love bison. It's such an iconic American animal, Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So, and it's one of those deals where you again, we try to, again, I always say your camera lens can reach out and touch something, right? And I'm not getting that close. Evergreen Rodeo, though, is a tricky arena because I'm not a huge fan of it, as most people know, and I'm nothing against them. I'm actually one of the board members there now, and so, but it's as far as the animals navigate, post bucking off an athlete, it's a little tricky. So
you're actually standing on the dirt in the arena. You're not behind a fence. Like,
Well, yeah, and that's just the way I prefer to shoot because I'm comfortable around that. But I know that I swim at my own risk out there, and have been stepped on or kicked around a little bit here and there. But what makes our arena tricky, and you can help me with this one, Doug, is the way these animals have to return.
Yeah, they have to leave. Most of the time at a rodeo arena, they leave through the middle of the buck and shoots. They'll go out and they'll leave through the middle. Or
so they kind of know where to go, or they're used to that.
These know where to go, but you got to think as many rodeos they go to every year, every week, and they're either going they'll buck and they'll turn around and go right back where they came from through the middle, or right back through the side. Here they have to turn and go all the way down to the far end and go out, and so you get into a little tricky situation trying to get them there, even though because you can only run them through so many times, and but it's proven to be a little tough.
It's good for the spectators, right?
Yeah,
Well, they like it because the animal sticks around a little longer.
Yeah, a little longer, and then there's some I can remember one year that Servy had some younger horses that he had brought, and a little wilder, and down on the far end where they go in, there's pens down there that they house them in, and this horse didn't go through the outgate; it just plowed through the wood railing and knocked it down. Well, here comes all the bucking horses that were already in there. They're coming back out in the arena. We have to go down there and nail up some stuff, get the horses back out. There's been some things that's happened here. One year we had a guy that. It was a specialty act, and he rode buffaloes, on under saddle.
That's crazy.
And one evening after the rodeo, everybody was gone and everything. The buffalo got out, and they're up and over the mountain. So we have to go find the buffalo and pin them up and put them in a trailer and bring them back.
Not an easy thing to do, right?
One year, all the bucking horses got out, went up over, and the bucking horses, they go up over the mountain here, and they end up where? The golf course,
right?
So
that's where everything ends up.
And it couldn't be at night,
right?
It was during the day, so there was a lot of golfers didn't like that, and. But
trying to play through?
Yeah, trying to play through.
Well, they have to play through elk all the time. I mean, these guys are crazy. In September, you ought to see the bulls that come in here. And they're running.
Golf over here at the city golf course, and you have to wait. I mean, you just...
Well, there's some people that don't.
There's
they
some
just
people
think
that don't.
They're going to play through them. So,
But, the best thing to do is wait. But there's been so many things happen here, in just the 25 years that I've been here. You've
been coming here 25 years?
This is my 25th year.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and I came here, I think Dave counted up last night. Last night they surprised me, by the way. They, at the sponsor dinner, they gave me a really nice, and there's a story behind it.
I was hoping you were going to say this.
There's a story behind this. So they gave me a really nice bronze statue of a bull elk with a plaque on it that says, the voice of Evergreen Rodeo for 25 years, Doug Mathis, and has the rodeo emblem on it.
Awesome.
So 26 years ago, Randy Widener and Bill Kaler, and my wife's sitting over here, and she's heard this I don't know how many times in the last 2 days. She's probably ready to go.
Well, now we're going to get it on tape, so you can just plug it in and listen anytime that you want.
She is absolutely the best trooper, and that's the best part of me sitting right over there. I could not do what I do without her. But
behind every good man, there's a woman.
That's I'm telling you right now. And one of these days, I know she's going to go, "Hey, hon, I've heard it, been there. Don't want to hear it no more. I'm going to stay home."
Yeah.
But anyway, 26 years ago, Randy Widener and Bill Kaler come to Las Vegas to the convention, and they hired me. And they asked me, when they hired me, they said, "Have you ever been to Colorado, Evergreen, Colorado?" And I said, "I've never been to Colorado, but I think I want to go." And so the next summer, I came for the first time, and I knew when I come around the corner up there on Bergen Park on Evergreen Parkway and looked off across those mountains, I thought, I'm home, man. I love this. And so we go through the rodeo that weekend, and Dave Marshall was the president then too. And he worked out at the Broche Ranch. And
Not related, but a great guy, man. He's an awesome guy.
He is.
Yeah.
And he ran the Bros Ranch. And so he had everybody out that worked the rodeo. He had everybody out, and a bunch of the board members and everybody out for dinner one night. And so I go. Of course, I'm fashionably late. Back then I was fashionably late because you made an entrance.
Right.
It's one of those young guy things, you make an entrance. So I come into the ranch, and there used to be a herd, probably still is. There was a herd of about 30 or 40 elk that would hang in that valley out there. And I'm talking about big bulls. Well, I didn't hunt. I've never been a hunter.
So I'm sorry, I'm gonna dial it back here just a little bit. Born and raised in Texas then?
Born and raised in Texas.
So as a kid, did you travel much or get outside?
We came to Colorado when I was like 5 or 6 with my grandparents once. And I remember bits and pieces of they took us to Pikes Peak and went up to the North Pole. And I remember little bits and pieces of it.
Is the North Pole still there?
Yeah.
Yeah?
But, I mean, for the most part, I don't remember any of it.
Yeah.
But, so when I was rodeoing, there was enough rodeos in Texas. I just stayed in Texas. And so I had never really been out. I've been skiing in New Mexico. I used to work at Red River.
Okay.
And when I got hurt, couldn't ride bulls anymore, I moved to Red River for a while and skied on a ski patrol. So that's about all I'd done. So but I didn't hunt. I knew my way around guns, but I didn't hunt because when I was young, like 3 or 4, my mother's brother got killed in a hunting accident. So I didn't get taken to go hunting, but I knew how to handle guns. So anyway, I'm driving out and I see all these elk, and I'm having to drive through them. It's the first time I've ever seen an elk, in live. And so I go in the house, and everybody's there. There's people from Evergreen that hunt, and Dave Marshall is one of the biggest hunters I've ever seen. He's got all these mounts. Everybody in there is versed in hunting and elk and everything. And the kid from Texas goes, "Dude, I just drove through about 40 elk out there. Huge, huge elk. And they're in felt."
Yeah.
You could have heard a pin drop.
Right.
And everybody turned and looked at me, and Dave went, "They're what?" I said, "They're in felt." He goes, "No. They're in velvet. Felt is what you get on a pool table."
Right.
And I kind of looked around and went, "Well, yeah, they're in that."
Yeah.
I mean, I had, but that's the story on the elk. That's why he bought that bull elk.
Nice.
Bronze.
Yeah.
And he made me tell the story last night, but I thought, this is the most perfect thing in the world, because most people give you a buckle or something like that. There's a story behind that elk, and it's perfect. But yeah, I've been coming here 25 years and wouldn't think of any other.
25 years straight.
There's not a better place to be.
Yeah, I've probably been to the Evergreen Rodeo at least 20 times as a kid. I mean, I grew up here, and had family members that rode in it and did all kinds of stuff, but.
Yeah, we were talking about it
so
today.
That's crazy. You were the announcer when I was a kid, eating cotton candy.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah, but I mean, you do it for 32 years, and I get that now. I'll have people come up and they'll have kids, and they go, "Man, I have listened to you since I was a little kid," and I'm like, I'm not going to say that 3-letter word, but I guess I'm kind of that way.
Yeah,
but.
You look pretty good you walked in pretty solid for being a former bull rider. So,
yeah. I tell them my claim to fame in bull riding is all these teeth are mine.
Yeah.
I kept all my teeth. But this morning I went to Kiwanis. I always go to Kiwanis when I come to town. They invite me to come speak. And we got to talking about what I've seen and who I've seen and everything. And, you don't realize it because it spans for 25 years or whatever that I've been here. But people don't realize you've had 2 Bullfighter of the Years for the PRCA. You had Lance Britton, who was a Bullfighter of the Year, Wrangler Bullfight champion. You had Corey Wall, who was a Bullfighter of the Year in 2009. You've got a Hall of Fame stock contractor and Surveys. And when I first came, Mike, his dad, was a stock contractor. Now it's Binion and Chase, the boys, that do some of the largest rodeos in the industry, plus take enormous numbers of bucking stock to the NFR every year. You've had specialty acts. Back when we had specialty acts, we had Blake Good, who has been at the NFR, and he had two big Bramers, 2,000-pound Bramers, that was Apache and Geronimo, and he'd ride them Roman style, jump them through fire and all kind. It was a cool act.
That's crazy.
You had Rodney Gaston, who was a great specialty act. One year we had a guy named Dan McIntosh. He called himself Buffalo Breath, and he did a whole act. He'd come out in a wagon that you would haul freight and stuff like back in the old days. And then he had a group of guys come in as Black Bart and everything, chase him around. And this wagon blew up and blew stuff from here to Denver. It took 10 minutes to do the act. Took 30 minutes to clean up the arena.
Really?
But you've had trick riders here that have been. This rodeo has passed through so many, or people have passed through this rodeo that have been to the NFR and been to Las Vegas and won awards and everything. It's really cool to think back and think what you've seen here in Evergreen, and it just keeps continuing.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why is the lore with Evergreen? Is it just the people that put it together that are booking everything, or is it a culmination of kind of a destination type rodeo, or is it
back, like for specialty acts and stuff? And for those people out there that don't understand how it all works, in December during the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo in Las Vegas, we have a convention. It's just like any business would have conventions. You buy a booth, you go set up, and you promote yourself. And you have committees that come through that are looking for acts, looking for announcers, that, and that's where a lot of times that's where they go find them. So back when we had specialty acts, and when they made team roping mandatory, I was here before team roping was mandatory. And when they made team roping mandatory and equal pay on both sides, that kind of was when specialty acts started fading in some of the grassroots rodeos, because they were looking, where are we going to get the money to pay equal money for those guys? Well, that's the first thing that we can actually do a rodeo without. So that's where your specialty acts started fading back. But when we had specialty acts,
and these are kind of between events, whether getting animals ready or switching up to, right?
You'll take, like, after the saddle bronc riding, going down to the tie-down rope, and you're swapping ends, you'll bring in
and you see some crazy stuff, like a guy ride a buffalo or or a wagon blow up.
Trick riding or
Well, yeah, we got Courtney Claybaugh here this year, and last year I think she was just getting her permit, and so she wasn't an official part of the production yet. This year she will actually be part of the production.
If you don't have your card, you can still run. When you get in the PRCA,
which stands for Professional
Rodeo Cowboys Association.
Okay, thank you.
And they're housed at Colorado Springs at 101 Pro Rodeo Drive.
There's a museum there or something, right? Or a Hall of Fame.
Rodeo Hall of Fame. Yeah.
He'll be in there.
Bless you. If anybody's here from the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame, did you hear that? No. But I lost train of thought because you just surprised me.
We were talking about specialty acts.
Well, let's just go down and do the induction right now.
Let's go. Yeah. To get in the PRCA, you get a permit or a card to get your card. So you get a permit, and you have to do so many rodeos, and they come and look at you, and then you have to have people sign for you that have been to the NFR or whatever. It's a process. You don't just go buy a card and get in. And so if you don't have your card or you just have your permit, you can't be in the performance, but you can be in the pre-rodeo or in the intermission or something. But that's what he was talking about. Now she can be in the body of the rodeo.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And every one of us go through that process.
Yeah, everybody.
Yeah, you as a photographer,
everybody.
Right?
Even as an announcer.
Really?
And the process has changed a little bit, I know it has for me, for announcers. Back when I got it, you had to apply for it, and then you had to get 5 PRCA rodeos. And it wasn't, you had to get 5 by yourself, announce 5 standalone PRCA rodeos. And then you had to have 2 announcers that had been to the NFR sign for you, a stock contractor that had been to the NFR, and then they sent somebody out at one of those 5 rodeos. You didn't know where they were coming from, who they were, when they'd be there.
Well, announcing is such a big part of that experience, I think. Like,
it creates the experience.
They're iconic voices, right, with Western influence behind it.
Right.
But then you guys are interacting. You're almost like, I don't want to say a performer because that's not what you're doing, but you're guiding the audience along. There's a lot of breaks in between where guys are getting on or off of animals, or they're trying to get an animal back. You guys are cracking jokes. Like, there's some humor behind it. Then you have the relationships that you build, and you're around a lot of the same people. Like, you'll poke fun at Mike tomorrow, I hope.
No, I don't.
You're an entertainer,
Yeah.
per se. You're kind of a stand-up comic, a tour guide, and a teacher.
Educator, yeah.
Educator,
Yeah.
because you educate, you inform, and entertain, basically. And then what always
You
gets
become
me,
everybody's best friend at that
you
thing,
try
right?
to, And I will tell you right now, the absolute best person at that, because in 5 seconds, Hadley Barrett was your best
Oh,
friend.
Hadley. Are you kidding
Hadley
me?
Barrett was he just set the bar. And, you know, I'm around Tallman all the time, and Tallman's like the voice of the PRCA rodeo. I mean, he's been around forever. Everybody knows him. Everybody loves him. But he changed the sound of rodeo when it came about. Before Bob came about, it was Clem McSpadden, Hadley Barrett. You go on and on. I mean, just there was about 5 or 6 of them, but they all had their same kind of cadence, you know. And it was pretty much, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Evergreen Rodeo. You're going to see the best in cowboys in the world, as we bring you this and this and this. As we go down to the buck and shoots, and it was an announcer, like a suit and tie. And then Tallman come along.
Very professional, right?
Very professional. Then Tallman comes along, and you can watch The Great American Cowboy, which is a documentary that was made in the 70s. That's the one with Phil Lyon and Larry Mahan that I was talking about. And they follow them on the road. Well, back then there was a bull named Oscar that Bob Cook out in California had that very seldom ever did anybody ride this bull. Donnie rode him for 97 points. But he was like the bodacious of that time.
Okay.
And there was a guy, his last name was Areola. And he come from Mexico. He was Mexico's best charro bull rider in all of Mexico. And he said, you know, I want to try and ride this bull. So they made this big deal. But Tallman was at the rodeo where he was at when they did this. And you can listen to Tallman on that film, and he sounds like those guys. But then he got to where he was just telling stories and you know, there wasn't many stories or anything before. It was pretty much just, here's who he is. He's from here. That's going to be a no score. Give him a round of applause. That's all he's going to get.
Like you're announcing
Now,
golf,
let's go
right?
down. Yeah.
Now do it in Tallman version.
Yeah.
I want you to do it because I know you're good at this. I've heard you do it.
So
Yeah.
Bob comes along and he starts talking about different people and that he knows. Because a lot of people don't know it, but Tallman worked every event except for bronc riding. You know, and when he was in high school and college and everything, he went to San Luis Obispo out in California from college.
So when you say work, like he was an all-around cowboy,
Yeah.
so he was competing.
He was competing.
Okay.
And then he started working for Bob Cook, and the way he got to be an announcer was he was competing and working for Bob Cook at his stock contracting company. Kristen, his wife, was a timer for him. Kristen, a lot of people don't know this, but Tallman's wife, she's got her judge's card. You know, she used to go out and judge rodeos with Bob Cook and them. But Tallman was competing and working for Bob Cook, and the guy that was announcing was terrible, I guess. And Tallman goes, "Yeah, that guy's terrible." He said, "I can do better than that." Cook goes, "Tomorrow night, you're up." So he goes up there. He goes up there and he lets him do it. And he pays him $100. He said, "Man, I thought there'd never be another poor day," and he took off. Well, he stayed in that kind of mode, but then he started throwing in stories and talking about his friends. And then there was a girl that used to work for him.
So just filler in between what you actually have to get out, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and then he got this thing. And Tallman is an entertainer. I mean, that guy walks in a room, he's got a presence. He's an entertainer. And so then this girl that used to work for him, she said one time he called her in the office with a yellow pad, one of those legal pads. She said he sat me down and he started just rolling off one-liners. Said by the time we finished, he had like 250 one-liners he'd come up with. "Oh, this bull out here, he just kicked him out the back door and wrung him out like a bad piece of bubble gum. He wrung him out like a dirty shirt. This guy just took him to the cleaners like a $2 suit and the preacher." Yeah, I mean, he had all kinds of stuff.
I knew that.
Yeah.
But and then it worked. And then he started doing the one-liners, and to watch him do Bob Feist at Reno is where it started. Now it's gone to the Lazy E in Guthrie, Oklahoma. But Bob Feist started the BFI, the Bob Feist Invitational team roping. Tallman used to do the Bob Feist Invitational at Reno during the day, and then he'd do the rodeo at night. To watch old tapes of him, he goes so fast. Because I mean they were clicking him off in that team roping, but he goes so fast and throws in so many things about those guys. There's nobody else in the world could do it. But when he started doing that, he took rodeo announcing to a complete different level, and he's pulling NFR rounds up right now.
Okay,
here's the deal: at the NFR,
is Bob still in the game?
Oh, yeah.
I'm just ignorant to it. So that's awesome.
We do the Western Heritage Classic Ranch Rodeo together. We just finished it last month.
He lives down in Weatherford or
he lives in Poolville.
Poolville. Okay.
Yeah,
shout out to Bob, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
So kind of the original.
Oh man,
yeah.
But you can watch him on the NFR in some of the tapes back when we used to have an orchestra, and an orchestra would give you it gives you. A beginning and an end. It doesn't start until the chute gate cracks or they nod their head to rope. And then it goes through till the buzzer, and then it goes, ta-da, and it stops.
Now they're playing Metallica.
Now it's can music.
Yeah.
And so it's bed music under you. But when it was the orchestra, you can listen to those, and Tallman will sound completely different because he takes his time a little more. He could take his time a little more. And then when it started being Metallica and the can music and bed music was under you, and then they had the sound effect over here.
You got to pump up the tempo.
You got to roll, man. You got to get
you guys
above
got pyrotechnics, all kinds of crazy
and
stuff.
so it's a complete, totally different sound now, than it was back then. And when I first started doing Fort Worth at the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo back 12, 13 years ago, we still had an orchestra. And it was really cool, because you introduce the orchestra director and all this stuff in the opening, and it was really, really, really cool.
Very classy.
Yeah, very classy.
Yeah.
It's a classic sound, too, to have that orchestra.
Right. But now, I mean, if you look at it and you think about it, and Benji Bendley and Hambone and all, they're just great friends of mine, and I love working with each and every one of them because they are excellent at what they do, and I love having them. But if you think about it, rodeo, they had to evolve because about the time they started doing the can music, the X Games and Monster drinks and Red Bull and everything, they've got all this.
I mean, that's what spawned like the PBR
stuff.
and stuff, right?
Yeah,
it's
right.
like
PBR
you take the best event, or arguably the best event in rodeo, or the most exciting as a spectator, and you just make it its own thing, right?
Yeah,
like,
right. But they had to kind of do that because they've got so many choices now with the X Games and all these professional sports to spend their money on a ticket to go see. You got to give them that same entertainment, look and feel, and that high pump
the
deal.
light shows,
because
and
if they
intros
come and they heard, they're going to go watch a motorcycle race or something,
Right.
You know. So it had to evolve into it.
Sure.
And by doing that, we're able to do a lot more things. You know, we can take that music with words in it, do an opening that really.
So do you know when you're announcing up there, like what song's coming up, like
No.
or anything? Who's DJing?
There's a lady named Brandy Edmonds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Her husband, Bob Edmonds, is a rodeo announcer, also very good rodeo announcer. But they also have a sound company. That's another thing that's changed since I first started. Used to, we carried our own sound system. So when I first came to Evergreen, I set up a sound system. I had all the players and stuff over here, and I'm announcing too, and I'm running music at the same time and keeping up with who's going. I mean, you had to be half ADD, okay?
Right.
But then, and it went from cassette tapes, is where I started, and I would have mounds of cassette tapes with one piece of music on each one. So about 3 hours, 4 hours before the rodeo, I would go up there and I would take each cassette tape and I'd
And you had to figure out where they were at, right?
Yeah, well, all you do is one piece of music on a cassette tape. You run it until it starts playing. The second it makes music, stop it, put your finger in it, crank it back halfway, and it cues it. So I'd take it and I'd stack it, take it, stack it, and I'd stack all of them up. Then during the rodeo, I'd pick it, push play, drop it in a bucket. Push play, drop it in a bucket. So the next day I'd have to do it.
What happens if it eats the tape? Remember that shit?
Eats the tape.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
got a double head.
You're
If it eats
screwed,
the tape,
yeah.
you're screwed. You know?
Yeah.
But then it went from that and it went to CDs. And I got one of those 100 CD carousels.
Oh, yeah.
And I had them all listed.
Those things
on
were crazy. They were like the size of a
Yeah.
microwave.
Yeah, I had them on, had it all in numbers on what song was where, and I just push it and do it that way.
And you must have thought that was space age.
Oh, I thought it was great.
Yeah.
And then mini discs came along.
Yeah.
Mini discs were an announcer's dream. And then they came with a computer program, Sports Sounds Pro. That changed the whole look of it because that's what they use at basketball games and everything. And it's instant. And you can touch it and back it up.
Hit a space bar.
Well,
And then
if you think about it, when you're watching it now, especially because of the Cowboy Channel, really bringing it to the living room way more than
Right.
it ever has
Yeah.
been before. But they'll queue up something instantly that might be perfect with what's happening in that arena at that moment.
Sure.
Some song that brings back an old memory or something, and
Right.
it's all orchestrated in a way that it's instantaneous now. And that's the world that we, in some ways, unfortunately,
It's a
live
production
in now.
now,
Huge
along
production.
with the sport.
For 22-3 years, Benji Bentley has always been the music director at the NFR. And I've worked at the NFR since 1999. I mean, I'm on the ground floor in the openings and stuff. I'm up on the announcer stand. But you sit there and you watch Benji, and Benji would have 5 computers. And he'd run them all at the same time and the board. His hands worked like spiders. And he would change from screen to screen that quick. He knows exactly where everything is. And if guy runs a steer, he's got long hair, get a haircut and get a new job. It comes in that
so he's
quick.
got full on like
He's-
sound bites
Oh,
and stuff.
yeah. We'll say something.
Matty, we got you a new career, dude. You're going to go
Yeah.
to rodeo
Basically
sound bites.
doing that right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, he would guy'd buck off and you go, oh, he was almost there. And you go, I'd like to have that one back.
Right.
He's got cuts that he works really hard on, clipping, and he knows exactly where they are any given moment. And I'm amazed when I sit and watch him.
And it's something as a spectator you kind of take for granted.
You take it
You're
for
just
granted.
taking
It just
all
comes
in,
out.
right?
It's like watching an Elvis Presley movie. Music
Yeah.
comes out of nowhere. It doesn't. It comes from him, and he's got the fastest fingers on a keyboard and a mouse pad. I'm just amazed when I watch him how he works it. And after 22, 23 years of doing it, he decided, Hambone's coming up, and he came up under Benji and everything, and he said, man, it's time for me to step back, and so he let Hambone do it now, and Hambone is the same way, But there's a lot of changes that's come up in rodeo, and Tallman just started. But
That's awesome.
Talking about the music part of it, the rock and roll, there's a guy, and Bad Company Rodeo came about, and he started putting songs with bull names and horse names. And actually,
So like each
Like a baseball
bull
player?
yeah, kind of like that.
Yeah.
But we were doing that in rodeo back in the 80s, But
So when Bodacious is coming out, you're playing Thunderstruck or
yeah,
whatever,
something like
right?
that.
Yeah.
But like he would have Bad Company would put like a bull named Bad Company. They would play Bad Company, or Celebration. They'd play Celebration. Something like that. Every bull's name was a song.
Oh, okay.
And so and by doing that, the bulls started getting their own identity. People would go, "Oh, here comes Celebration," or he'd do it with horses.
You think when they were in the pen in the back and they queued up that song, they knew like,
oh yeah,
this is my song.
Horses and bulls, they know.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll have bulls in the back pen that you can waller all over. They're like a pet. When they go up that alleyway and turn and go in that buck and shoot, and they hear that music,
It's game face, huh?
yeah, you don't mess with them.
Well, look at Mooney. He had his walkout.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you just knew. The whole crowd eventually just knew who's coming up now. And it just, people get on their feet, man, for that. Because they know
Well,
that
it's
that's
like a
their
fighter
music.
walkout, right? Or
Yeah,
something in the
walkout
UFC,
song.
the walkout song. You know when you hear James Brown, it's either Grant Neal coming out or Dustin Poirier.
Yeah.
Like somebody that's going to put it to you.
You were talking earlier about how when you were in your permit, year of doing that, and then you had, did they still refer to that as an arena evaluation? I mean, that's what they called our deal. But when you didn't know that person was coming in.
Yeah, it was just an evaluation.
Right.
And they would come do it, and then, you didn't know when they were there, but all of a sudden you'd get a letter, and I was very fortunate. I got one letter, said, "You're in,"
Yeah.
They sent your card with it and everything.
And as far as you know, they're still doing it kind of like that?
They
or
don't.
no?
They kind of do it like that. They, but now the big difference, unless they've changed it again, and I mean, it's kind of one of those deals that after you're in, and so you don't really pay attention how,
Right.
you're busy. So,
Right.
But unless they've changed it again, used to, and the only reason I know this is in Carson, Iowa, at the rodeo one time, I had a guy come up, and it's 5 events. That doesn't have to be at the same rodeo. It's like, I just need to do 5 events. He doesn't even need to. That to me kind of took a little bit away from it, because you don't have to go out and scrape and claw and get your 5 rodeos and do a rodeo.
Right.
You have to do an event or piece of an event. So you can be really good at doing a team roping run, but you're terrible at an opening, or, they need to do it to where you have your own rodeo. You have to go get your own rodeo.
Yeah.
and
Start to stop.
Start to stop. Because when you get your card, it's all you, baby.
Yeah.
You can't go, all I've ever really done is team roping. No, sir. You got to do an opening. You got to do a grand entry or a horse opening or whatever they've got. And then you got to do a prayer. You got to orchestrate the national anthem and a patriotic. You got to be able to do all of it, make it flow together in about 15 minutes, then come in with the sponsor flag, and then here we go with the bareback riding.
Not to mention you're reading ads basically during this whole thing for all the sponsors.
Yeah,
right?
and I found out real quick.
So the moment we get a beef or some sort of meat company, I'm going to have you do the commercials for us.
We've come full circle now.
That's where I found out that I kind of do stuff different than other announcers as far as the sponsor stuff. And I found out or figured out a long time ago, to be honest with you, the sponsors are what drives your rodeo. If there was not sponsors, nobody's going to put up that much money just to have a rodeo, usually. It's the sponsors that bring you the money that make it able to hire the people to put the rodeo on. They need to be taken care of. So they send you 3 or 4 little lines, and they're like, go the bull and bear. That's where the cowboys go after the rodeo. Whatever. Open every night, da-da-da. Okay, but there's more to that deal. So I got the idea. I come in about 2 or 3 days earlier. Most of the guys will fly in the day of or the day before, and then they'll do the rodeo and leave the day of or the day after. I come in 3 or 4 days or a week ahead of time, and I'll get up and I'll go to all these businesses, and I'll walk in, I'll shake hands. Tell me what you do here. Da, 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 and I'll walk around and I'll look. Judy and Kenny Geronimus. Yeah, okay. You got bands that are coming in. You bring bands from here, you bring bands from there, and drink specials. Tell me about your drink specials. And I'll talk about all of that. And what you do over a period of time, you become kind of family. Every year
it's
when you go in, it's personalized.
Right,
yeah. And so you get to watch people's kids grow up, and you can say, hey, so-and-so down here at the IGA, he's been running the IGA for 26 years, and his kids, they just won the soccer championship. They were down there. They're here today for the first time. And the crowd goes, he actually knows them. He actually knows what he's talking about, And, for instance, in Red Lodge, Montana, they have a steakhouse there. And Carbon County Steakhouse is phenomenal. It's great. Well, Tom Kuntz owns it. And Tom Kuntz is also the chief of the fire department. Tom Kuntz also owns the Pollard Hotel. And Allie, his daughter, is rodeo queen, was a rodeo queen for Montana. And so you start getting to know all these things. And he's told me, he said, by you doing that, he said, we have had so many people come in the steakhouse and go, hey, that guy that talks about you at the rodeo, how long have you known him? And they eat with us and they stay with us at the Pollard. It makes your sponsors happy. It pays for itself. I mean, it's a good deal. And that's
a great approach on anything.
Yeah, and I've had people.
That's a great hotel, by the way, too.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And I've had people tell me at rodeos, they said, we make money on sponsorships because you talk about them the way you do. If it was just a one-liner, let's go down to.
I think that's why we've done so well podcasting. Is I only take on sponsors of products that I personally use.
Yeah.
So that I can personally talk about it.
You can talk about them.
And I'm not selling a bunch of bullshit.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
But the more you know about them and the better you can promote them, the better it is.
We're going to Jocko Fuel tomorrow, Matt. So nice. we're coming up on time here. I want to be respectful of your guys' time, but I got to ask this question. It's been in the back of my mind the whole time.
I quit doing that.
40 years. 40 years you've been at rodeo, 40 plus years, whether it was
30 something.
Yeah. Behind the chutes or in the announcer's booth, and you too, Mike, you guys have seen some crazy stuff. What's the craziest thing that you've ever seen happen at one of these events, or something that stands out in your mind?
First thing that stands out in my mind is Fort Worth, Texas, Dillinger, the Bucking Bull. Fort Worth, Texas, in the Will Rogers Arena, Coliseum. We're now in Dickey's Arena. But back when we were in Will Rogers, behind the buck and chutes, you would walk up the ramp out of the buck and chutes. If you were a contestant, you walked out in the hall, that went all the way around Will Rogers Coliseum. And used to be, it was just open. Just an open hallway going up out of the buck and chutes. And one night, Dillinger was in the buck and chutes. The guy got down on him, had his hand in the rope, and he sucked back in the buck and chute and reared up and jumped. Instead of over the front, he jumped over the back. And he got enough of himself hung over that when he went over, the guy just opened his hand and dropped down in the buck and chute, and Dillinger flipped over behind the buck and chutes. And he just proceeded to go up the ramp and into the hall. And so there's people out there buying popcorn and corn dogs and beer and everything. They turn around and Dillinger's right there. Well, the first funny thing about it was when he rounded that corner, they had one of those mobile beer kiosk things right there in the hall. And there was this girl, she was doing beer, and she looked, and she dropped that beer and took off. Well, it's still running. Well, Dillinger goes by it. Well, about 5 guys, and they went over there, and they just started. They got free beer for a long time because nobody was manning the beer store. But he kept on going around, and who was there? I forget who the bullfighter was, but he jumped over, and we were having people in the box seats jumping into the arena.
Oh, shit.
Because he's right there behind the box seats, and they're jumping over into the arena. And Frank Newsom, that's when he was still doing PRCA rodeos. Right. He jumps over the fence. He runs up the first little vomitory deal to get into the hall, and he catches Dillinger as he goes by, and he grabs his tail. And he's sliding on this tile floor, and those metal bottom cleats just tick, 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 tick. Well, at the other end of the hall is a double door that goes back out in the alleyway. Well, they swung those doors open, and the pickup men come in with their horses.
So now they're in the
hallway. Yeah. And they just kind of stood there, and they waited for him to come by, and they roped him as he went by, and he slipped and slid over, and then they let him get up, and then they hauled him out that door and back in the alleyway. And Tallman's telling everybody, all right, he's coming down. Get back in your seats. And they're jumping back over, and he comes back in the alleyway. But that was pretty exciting, pretty quick. And because of that, there's metal doors with latches there on that.
So what are you saying at this point? Is the announcer?
I wasn't announcing. Tallman was announcing.
Okay.
Yeah, Tallman was announcing.
Free beer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was one of the guys getting the free beer. No, I wasn't announcing. I seen the video of it. I was actually in Sweetwater, Texas doing a rodeo.
Okay.
And they're calling me and telling me, and then when I got back, I saw a video of it because this was before phone videos and everything. But that was a crazy deal. But
I'm sure there's so many. It's so hard, right? That's a tough question.
Yeah,
but when you come back, because we like to have recurring guests in here. Mike, this is your 3rd time on,
I believe
right?
so, yeah. I don't know how or why or how I just think I just loiter.
You're the man,
I'm
dude.
just here to loiter.
Stop. Come on, man.
Yeah. I was just
Is that red light still on?
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
believe
good.
it or not. So it's funny. I mean, I don't know how I think we got into this topic about the athletes, right? And we're talking about the animal athletes and how high they can jump. And one of my places where I've really cut my teeth in shooting is out at Cervi's in their arena. Now, this arena is very unique. It looks like it's out in the middle of nowhere, and all the fencing is made out of old telephone poles. And when they're out there doing this Ace High Rough Stock Academy, you've got young horses that are learning their way around the arena. You've got young athletes that are learning how to try to ride these darn things. And no doubt, every time I've been out there, there's a horse or two they don't know when to hit the brakes, and they'll run right into these posts and sometimes break them. But I think it was a year ago when you talk about these animals being able to leap, we had a young horse and a rider come out and get to this corner of the arena, and horse and rider both took out the top post, but he stayed on, and they landed, went for one more jump outside of the arena. And then everybody got all panicky, not as much as you would with a whole stadium full of people, because they didn't know what this horse was going to do. Well, the horse just went over by Randy Britton's other pickup horses over there and started eating a bunch of hay and all that. Yeah. But it's a great video if you can ever. Somebody has it out there. It's just really neat to see this horse and rider just going all the way over this deal. And again, that seems to be the hot topic of the day. These animals jumping things.
Yeah.
But that one I'll never.
Well, hopefully
forget.
it doesn't happen in Evergreen because they're going to be in town.
No, we don't need that.
No. There's how much time you got left?
We got as much time as you need.
I got another one for you. This was you probably won't ever see this happen again.
Before I forget, it's not a classic evergreen story about cars and creeks, right? Because Sharon Maury, I don't know if I'm allowed to bring this up, but Sharon brought it up with me last night, and she said,
"Yeah, over the years." Over the years, I told them last night when I got that award, I said, I was always the entertainment when I come to town. Because I hoorah'd a lot, you know. And I told him, I said, the Little Bear, it was going to be
great spot.
It was going to be the death of me, you know? And then when I met my wife, everybody kind of got a sad face and went, "Dang, entertainment's over with." And I'm like, "Yeah, it sure is."
Yeah.
But yeah. So the story that she's talking, do you know it or did she?
No, she just said if you bring it up, I don't know if you'll get away with it or not. But I had to bring
Sharon,
it up.
if you're listening, here you go. So Sharon had this little Audi. It was a cool little car. Well, I had came in and I needed something to drive, and she gave me the keys to this Audi, and so we go out and the Little Bear. There's a big shindig going on Saturday night, and the rodeo's people's going down there and everything. And so I bail off down in there, and I take the Audi and park it right over here in the parking lot. Well, I get in there, and you know, you can get in someplace, especially the Little Bear. You can get in there, and you can look around, and you can start having a beer or two, and you're like, this might not end up real good. This is going to be fun. This might
Well, the Little Bear a while back used to be a pretty rough spot. You know, because you'd get, especially in the summer, you'd get a mixture of cowboys and then real bikers.
Yeah.
Not like your weekend warrior lawyers and leather chaps. These dudes were like club guys.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, I don't mean not turn out good in that way. I mean, it's like, I'm going to have a headache in the morning, you know? so Christy was there, and Christy Tolan. And so I do the responsible thing. I say, "Hey, here's Sharon's keys. Hang on to these because I'm fixing to rear back a little bit." It's okay. So Richie Harris was there with me. Eddie Hatfield was fighting bulls, and we were all down there. And so the night goes on, we shut it down. And Richie and them, I go back to the rodeo arena with them. I'm in my trailer. So I get up the next morning, got a headache, feel like somebody dropped a concrete block on me. And I got to do a perf at 2 o'clock. And so I go outside. I was going to go uptown and get me something to eat. And I go outside, and Audi's not there. And I'm like, and I mean, it's one of them deals I do not remember. I'm like, where is the car? And I'm looking for the keys, and I don't have the keys. And I'm freaking out. And it's hot, you know, for evergreen hot. And I'm sitting there on the steps of my trailer at that time, horse trailer, and that sun's beating on it, and I'm sweating, and I'm worrying, and I'm sitting there, and I'm worrying. And so Shane comes by, the vet, and I said, hey. I said, "Come here." He goes, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Man," I said, "I don't know what I did with Sharon's car." I said, I don't remember coming home last night, man. I don't know what. And I asked Richie, and I don't remember coming home with Richie and him, you know. And Richie's like, "Well, I don't know. It was there on the, you know, you were in it, the parking lot." And I'm like, "Oh, man," I said, "I am in trouble." I tried calling the Little Bear. They weren't open yet, you know, see if they found the keys. And so Shane goes, "Well, dude, I got something to tell you." He said, "I've been by there on vet runs this morning early." He said, "I've been by Little Bear 3 or 4 times." He said, "That parking lot's cleaned out." He said, "There's nothing on it." And I'm like, oh, God, what am I going to do? And I'm getting worried and sicker feeling by the moment. Well, we got a production meeting over in the tent. And Sharon's coming. And so Sharon pulls up, parks in front of my trailer. And I'm like, bite the bullet, buddy, because there ain't nowhere around this. So I said, "Come here." She sat down there and she said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I don't know where the car is." "What?" I said, "I don't know where the car is." I said, "I don't know where the keys are." I said, and I forgot that I gave them to Christy. I mean, I was blank. And so she's like, Okay, let's just go to the meeting, and we'll figure this out. Okay, and I said, it's not there. I said, I've called Little Bear. I finally got a hold of them. They ain't find no keys. I said, Shane's been by there 3 times. The car's not in the parking lot. I said, it's not there. And I said, what are we going to do? She goes, we'll figure it out. We got to go to this meeting. So we go over the meeting. I bet there's 60 people in this meeting. And so I'm sitting on a bale of hay. And they're going through this deal. I got my paperwork and I'm marking up stuff, but I'm not there. I'm thinking about what in the heck have I done? Well, I'm looking down at this paperwork and I hear somebody go, is Sharon Mallory in here? And I kind of stopped. And she goes, that's me. She goes, ma'am, do you own an Audi? And I looked up. She said, yes, I do. She goes, we're pulling it out of the creek right now. I freaked out. I mean, bad freaked out. And she turned around and went, and looked at me. And I'm like, and then out of the corner of my eye, Dave Marshall's sitting there, and he couldn't hold it. He's dying laughing. This whole tent was in on this deal.
Nice.
Oh, no, it wasn't. I got up, walked out, and I threw my guts up. It made me sick. And then I did the rodeo, and after it was over with, I threw my guts up again. I mean, they got one up.
Oh, they kept it going through the rodeo?
No.
Okay.
I mean, they just
Right
got it up.
Yeah.
They got it all on me. Nobody's ever got one on me.
Oh, man.
But that's what she's talking about. The car in the creek.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That was it.
The car in the creek. Yep. That is great. I
Yeah.
love
Thank
it.
goodness those days are gone. They were fun, but thank goodness those days are gone.
Yeah, I can't deal with it anymore. I can't deal with the hangovers, the
No,
problem. Yeah.
no.
It's fun while you're doing it, but it ain't fun for the next couple days.
It's that's long gone.
awesome.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, Evergreen Rodeo happening Saturday, and Father's Day, Sunday,
Saturday
right? Yep.
afternoon and Sunday afternoon at 2:00.
Yep.
Heck yeah. If you're local, go check it out. We have people that listen from all over the world, believe it or not.
Yeah,
But
really?
if you live in Evergreen or Colorado or Denver or something, get up here, check it out. It's an awesome way to see the community. There's art shows going on. Mike, you got an art show going on.
Little showing with our
tonight.
local,
Yeah, because this will come out Friday. So
with Chris Krieg over there at
is it
at
tonight or
Beansford
is it
Del Lago.
Friday
No,
night?
it's tonight. Yeah.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Yeah, when I
this-
get out of here, I got to go get some.
It'll
of my
be
art
over by the
together.
time this drops. But
Yeah.
But yeah, go check out your art at Pentography on Instagram. But then you also have a website where you can buy
Sure.
some fine art.
Yep.
All that sort of stuff. So
Yeah,
what-
just Google Michael Pintar. You'll find
Okay.
me somewhere in there.
perfect.
So,
Go
yeah.
back and listen to some prior episodes. We got to get you back in here.
Yeah.
When you have time. And then Doug, Instagram,
Facebook,
websites. We didn't even get into you were the voice on Yellowstone's.
yeah.
You right?
Yeah.
The TV series.
Yeah, I had a part in season 4. Yeah, did.
Awesome. Did you get to kill anybody?
My claim my claim to fame was I'm the only guy on Yellowstone that didn't drop an F-bomb.
Okay.
So all clean lines. But yeah, I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and they can follow me that way. And a lot of things. I got a lot of things going on besides rodeo now. So.
Awesome. Well, maybe we'll do this again next summer when you guys are blowing through, and we'll get into some more
and-
dirty little secret stories.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
don't forget about the parade to Saturday morning at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, that's a great free event. It's
Parade is-
unbelievable.
it's unbelievable. It
the
is.
EMS that shows up, the police force, all the horses that you're going to see,
Yeah.
specialty ag. I mean, all kinds of stuff.
And
Man.
before
it's
I forget,
a lot of fun.
Just a little bit of a different momentum this year too. For those of you familiar with rodeo, we're also running Slack on Friday night.
Yes,
and
Slack starts at 4 on Friday afternoon.
and it's one of the best, truly. Especially for a rodeo like this, because we're starting to ramp up towards Cowboy Christmas. For those of you who understand that, that's
So
when
is
you
it going to
gotta-
go into the evening, like lights
It'll be
on,
at
or-
4:00 on Friday night, but
Oh, no. So you got 4 hours.
Yeah. It depends on how many.
But man, to sit up there while it's starting to cool down a little bit, and the
some of
sun
your
sets
best
at that time.
athletes come through though, for Slack.
Yeah, and that's true. You'll see world champion stuff in Slack because they're making this rodeo,
Yeah.
and they can make it in Slack. Then they can go to another one somewhere that night.
Yeah.
And get up. So Slack's not a bad thing to come out for because you'll see a lot of people, that you'll see at the NFR and everything.
And the bar's open too. But like if you look at the poster from 2 years ago, that's Brittany Positanazi on there, and she was running Slack here.
Slack,
and I
yeah.
took that photo, and I said, she's going to be world champ this year, because we were going to use a different barrel racer for it. I said, no, put her on that poster.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't know that, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And if you look at this year's poster, you got Keenan Hayes on there that I took before. I think he was in his permit at that year here at Evergreen.
And now he's the reigning world champion in the Bearberry Rodeo.
Out of Hayden, Colorado.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Shout out.
So kind of cool stuff. Sorry, I know we could open up a whole other.
Yeah, I want to be respectful of your guys' time. Yeah. Thank you so much for stopping by. I know how busy you are. But it's been an honor.
Cool.
Yeah, it's been an honor. It's fun in here, and time flies by. Believe it or not, we've been at it for an hour and 45 minutes. Yeah. So yeah, it's we're crushing it in here, and it's an honor to have you on. You're an icon in the sport, and it's a sport I love. So yeah, excited to see everything this weekend, and thank you guys for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for listening to the Mountainside Podcast. If you haven't had a chance to do this already, please take a moment, follow, like, subscribe, or rate on whatever platform you catch the Mountainside Podcast at. If you'd like some more information on upcoming episodes, safety tips, access to all of our affiliates, and all the badass discounts that we get here at the Mountainside Podcast, check out themountainsidepodcast.com.